Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassie from Tactile Technology, and it's our regular session that we do every day, every weekday that is, at 12:30, talking about cyber security, but doing it in plain English. It's our SMESec session. So we're going to talk about our next stage, stage 6 now. So let's get our slides up in front of us. So incident management is step 6. So we're going to move on to what do we do when we do have an incident. Hopefully you'll never have an incident, and that's one of the main things. We don't really want an incident, but we need to protect in case we do have an incident. That's the key thing. So we've gone through some basic things at the beginning. We've understood our risk. We've actually tried to secure our configuration. We've made sure that our network is secure. We've ensured that privileges are set for all of our users. We've educated our users and give them awareness of what might happen if there was an incident. So the next thing is, if there is an incident, how do we manage that incident? So first of all, we've got a process to follow, and the actual incident management covers from the point where we actually identify the actual incursion or the breach, the data access, whatever we're actually having. So the time we get compromised, all the way to the end when we actually review what's happened and what we've done about it. And through that, there are a number of key stages you can see on the diagram at the top. So the first thing is we've got to triage. We've got to understand what's happening and work out what to do next. Then we've got to analyze. We've got to then contain the attack, and then we've got to mitigate the attack, so stop it getting worse. Then what we're looking to do is find a way to remediate that situation. So get rid of it. So we've got either quarantine or killed the attack. And then we're going to try and recover from that point, and then finally review it. So they're the stages in it. But what we've got to do is think about what we need to do in advance of that, because the first thing is, if we had an incident tomorrow, if we don't have a response plan, we won't know what to do, who's doing it, how we're going to do it. So the first thing is actually putting together a response plan. That response plan, doesn't have to be only internal people. It could be using third parties as well. And there are a number of people that you might want involved in it, depending on the business and how you operate your business. But the first thing is having all the key contacts. So all the people you think are important, a part of the response of an incident, all of their contact details together. So the name of the person, the job, which company they work for, the telephone number, email address, all the key things, so you can understand who you need to speak to and how you're going to contact them immediately, rather than spending time trying to find out numbers of Pete, who normally looks after IT for you with XYZ company. So we need to make sure we've got all of the key contacts together, all the people you need to be able to speak to quickly if you do have an incident. The next thing you plan is have some kind of escalation criteria. So if things start to get worse, what do we do at that point? Do we have to bring in a third party? Do we need to deal with things differently? So at least have that plan B if plan A fails. So looking at escalation, what do we need to do? Who do we need to speak to? We need to also have a process to follow. And that process follows, roughly the flow chart I've got at the top, that we have an incident, triage it, analyze it, contain it or mitigate it, remediate or extricate it, and then recover and review. So going through that process. But we need to build a process that works for your business. So how do we do it? How are we going to do it? The other thing we need is some kind of single point for communication, some kind of either telephone conference number, a Zoom room that we use, or a Teams room that we use, so that everybody who's involved in the actual incident response can communicate clearly using one particular mechanism, rather than using multiple mechanisms for different people and ending up in a situation where we haven't got clarity of what's going on and what needs to be done. The next thing we need to have is some way to be able to track the incident, whether that's some kind of form, either a spreadsheet, a Word document, something that can be shared across all of the individuals involved in the response, so we can track what's happened from the beginning to the end. also who's responsible for what as we go along. So if Bill's actually dealing with, something around the network, we actually track that Bill's doing that and when he started it, when it was completed. So it's something all the way to the end. It could be a system. A lot of organizations have got ticketing systems or other systems that you could actually track the incident in. So you could create a ticket and you could put all the notes about it and share that with everybody in the business. If you're working with a third party company, like ourselves, they will have commonly their own, mechanism to be able to track it all the way through and give you access to it. So most IT companies that are doing some form of support, security service will have a mechanism for you to be able to track it so you can utilize that. But if not, if you're trying to do this in-house, you need to have some kind of mechanism. So some kind of application, some kind of spreadsheet. And there are a number out there you can get if you don't currently have something, technologies like some of the Kanban pieces like Trello. You can actually start, plan all your pieces and move them around through different boards to say that they're in production and they'll be done. Or even if you want to go a bit more complex, you can use something like Jira and you can get a 10 user account for Jira to be able to put your plan together on there and then progress that plan if you need to implement it as well. Jira is good because it follows the agile development process, and if you considering what we're doing in an incident, we need to deal with it quickly. We need as many people as possible involved in it and clarity. So something like Jira might fit really well for an organization. Again, make sure if you adopt any of these systems, you know how to use them. Make sure anybody else who needs to access them knows how to use them and follow them, which is a critical thing. The next thing to think about is from your business's perspective, depending on what type of business you are, what legal or regulatory guidance do you need to follow? Do you need to report any incidents to a particular body? What do you need to do legally and also regulatory, from the type of business you are? And some finance businesses may have specific things that they need to do and really need to report to these kind of incidents, and also a time frame that needs to be reported in. A lot of times it's within 24 or 48 hours, so you need to ensure that you know that and who you need to report that to and how you report it as well, whether that's an email, a telephone call, whatever is required. Make sure you've got that information so you meet the guidelines for your governing body. You also need some kind of business continuity plan, because it could be that if this incident cannot be confined and we're not able to stop it, so we need to have some kind of business continuity plan so that the business continue to operate while we deal with the incident. So have some alternative mechanism to give our internal users the systems that they require to be able to do their job. Any external users or even customers that access systems, we need to ensure that we've got some mechanism to ensure that they can continue to work in some form. It may be a lower level of operation, but to be able to at least continue the business, it's critical we've got that business continuity plan in place. And you should have that anyway. Outside of a cybersecurity issue, you could have it for any other type of issue that the business could in turn, a flood, a fire, some kind of electrical failure, something that could actually take out all the systems that you've got in your building, and have to have an alternative way of communicating and working with others. Final thing is communication is critical. You need to make sure that there's a communication part of your plan and you follow that communication guideline to make sure everybody who needs to know that there's an incident ongoing and also what needs to be done as part of that incident are clearly communicated to, and they understand exactly what's happening, and also they know when the next update's going to be. There's no point saying we've got an ongoing incident and never talk to them again. You need to say, we'll give you an update in 30 minutes and go back and then report in 30 minutes to say this is the situation. And you need to, in that communication plan, identify all the key people that need to be communicated with as well. The next thing is, the detection. How are we going to detect it? And there are a number of ways that we might detect this actual incident. One of them's from a technology perspective. So we may have some kind of systems in place that we can actually see it. So from a network reporting, we might have a tool called SEAM, which is where we can actually use a security software platform to identify that what's going on. We can see log and alert activity, and it gives us a picture that something's going on. We can also have EDR on our desktops, so our desktops, laptops, and other things. We can have an EDR platform, which is an endpoint detection and response system. So that's going to detect that something's going on by seeing the execution of a file, seeing a behavioral change, something that will actually trigger that detection capability. And the EDR platform on each of the end users' desktops or laptops will then report to the SOC, so the Security Operations Center, whether that's an internal one. If you've got a large organization, you've got enough skilled staff to be able to do it yourselves, report it to there, or report it into a SOC that may be delivered by a third party. And again, that's something we offer to our customers, a third party managed service SOC, so we can actually deal with and be alerted on a security incident, which is quite key. The other thing is the staff. You may get a detection from the staff because they see something happening on their own machine or the system they're trying to access. They can see something is wrong. They can see something, some banner, some change, or not be able to access a particular system. So they can quite quickly see there's some kind of incident, and they may report it, either directly or via a third party to you. The third party could be, the IT company that does all your IT support, and they've got a SOC service, and they identify there's an issue, and they let you know straight away there's an ongoing incident. We are starting our process to work with that incident. Or it could be, one of your business partners that they can see the incident because you're connected to them. They can see the incident because they're receiving messages in some way. So there could be a third party involved as well that will communicate the detection of that incident. The next thing is on our planned response is the triage. What do we do first? First thing we've got to consider is, what availability have we got? Have we got all our systems, or we got degradation of some of them, or have we got no systems at all? So what's our availability of our systems at the moment? What about confidentiality? What information do we believe has been effectively extracted, part of this attack? Let's consider that confidentiality on data, customer information, intellectual property. What are we losing? What can we do about it? Also, integrity. What is it actually an isolated incident, or is it going further than that? Let's look at the integrity of our infrastructure and see what we can do about it. So there's a lot to cover in this section. So what I'm going to do is come back to it, part of refresh on NIST, and we're going to go through all the NIST components, including detect, respond, and recover later next week it'll be the week after. But moving on from that, the next thing we need to do is have an incident management team. So we need to have a cybersecurity incident response team, so we know who's going to deal with this. It doesn't have to be all internal people. It could be maybe one person to coordinate things internally in a small business, and then it may be 2 or 3 other people, depending on what we need to do to achieve this. It could be majority of them are from a third-party company, your IT company, and they're going to actually detect and deal with the issue and the incident and track it through to the end. But we need to have an incident response team. We need to know who's going to deal with the situation. We need to know who's got the skills, who's got what specific role in dealing with the actual ongoing incident, and who's going to coordinate it all as well, because we need somebody top level coordinating that. Whether again that's an internal person within your business, or whether that's someone within the outsource IT or security team that's going to look after it for you. We need someone to coordinate it, to make sure everybody knows what they've got to do, what their roles and responsibility are, and what they're doing. And again, this team needs to be set up in advance. It's not something you can deal with on the day you get the incident or in the first 5 minutes of the incident. It needs to be planned in advance, a part of your response plan. Again, we need all the essential information together. So we need to understand all the network configuration details, all the components. We need to be able to access, the actual components in there. So login information for things, so we can actually go and deal with wherever the actual incident is focused, whether it's at an endpoint or some of the infrastructure. We need to be able to have that information so we understand what we've got to do and how we can deal with that time. And then also we need to build and maintain our capability. So when we set that team up, we actually make sure that everybody's got the right skills and capabilities. But if we need to actually do some training, we need to build on our technical response. So understanding how to detect those issues better, we need to build on that and maintain our capability going forward. It's pointless having a great capability for the first month, but after that the skills and capabilities tail away. We need to ensure that we're either increasing or maintaining our capability to be able to resolve an incident if an incident happens. So that was a really quick 15 minutes for me. Hopefully it's given you a bit of a picture of what you need to do from an incident management perspective. But the key things are detect it, triage it, analyze, contain and mitigate, remediate or extract or kill the actual situation, and then recover and review. So we always need to review at the end, because we need to know how it's happened. Was it a particular piece of software that was downloaded by accident? Was it through some kind of phishing attack? How did it happen? Let's look at how we can ensure it doesn't happen again by making sure we've got either the right technical or educational piece in place to ensure it doesn't happen again. Hopefully that was useful for you. So Monday, we're coming back to malware protection. So malware protection is really critical in this, because a lot of attacks instigate from something like phishing. I think the figures at the moment are 55-60% of attacks start with some kind of phishing attack, so an email that's sent to someone within the business, and then that downloads some form of malware, and that malware is used as a launch point to actually do the attack, whether it's a data extraction, whether it's a ransomware attack, or whatever it is. It's usually part of it through some form of malware. So please join me next week on Monday at 12:30 to 12:45 for our next episode talking about malware protection. And have a great weekend. We've got a bit of sunshine for a change. It makes it feel a lot better life when we've got a bit of sunshine. So hope you all have a great weekend, and see you back on Monday at 12:30 to 12:45. Thank you very much.